Today, we're stepping back in time to the golden age of piracy, roughly the late 17th to early 18th centuries, to find out what it was really like for a newcomer to join a pirate crew. We're talking about how the recruitment process worked, what was expected of a new recruit, and their first days on board with a band of swashbuckling rogues. Raise the Jolly Roger, and let's dive in. Before we jump into the nitty gritty of recruitment, it's important to understand the world pirates lived in. We're looking at a time of intense maritime trade, colonial expansion, and naval warfare. Merchant ships carried valuable cargoes of gold, spices, and other lucrative goods. Seizing these ships on the high seas could lead to unimaginable wealth, but also carried huge risks, from storms to the gallows if caught. Some pirates were former sailors in the Royal Navy, merchant mariners fed up with low pay and harsh discipline, or even escaped convicts and indentured servants hoping to find freedom and fortune on the seas. Pirate crews were often melting pots. They might include sailors from Britain, France, Spain, Africa, the Caribbean islands, and beyond. And interestingly, many pirates were once privateers, legally sanctioned corsairs who turned to outright piracy when nations shifted alliances or ended privateering commissions. Poverty, maltreatment aboard naval or merchant vessels, and the lure of a different life at sea often played big roles in a sailor's decision to join a pirate crew. But how exactly did these crews recruit their newest members? Recruitment happened in two main ways. When a pirate ship overpowered a merchant vessel, they often questioned the crew, asking who would be willing to join them. This was both an offer and at times an ultimatum. Some captives joined willingly. Better wages, a share of the loot, and freedom from abusive officers could be quite tempting. Those who refused might be set adrift, forced to row back to shore if close enough, or in harsher cases, face punishment. However, outright forced conscription was less common than popular myths suggest. Pirates needed willing crew who wouldn't mutiny at the first chance. On the other hand, in pirate friendly ports like Nassau in the Bahamas, Port Royal in Jamaica before it was devastated by an earthquake in 1692, or Tortuga off the coast of Hispaniola, pirates often recruited openly. They spread stories of riches and the promise of equality among the crew to attract adventure seekers. Taverns, brothels, and dockside hangouts were prime hunting grounds for signing up sailors who were tired of backbreaking labor on merchant or naval vessels. Once you agreed to join a pirate crew, the next step was to sign, or at least agree to, the Articles of Agreement, also known as the Pirate Code. While every captain had a slightly different set, these articles generally covered the following information: shares of plunder. Each man knew his cut. Captains and quartermasters typically got larger shares, but the rank and file still fared much better than on a merchant or naval ship. Behavior on board. Fighting among shipmates and cheating at cards could cost you a portion of your share, or worse, marooning on a deserted island. Discipline and mutual protection. Pirates often compensated injured comrades with extra shares of loot. The crew took care of its own. This code gave pirates a sense of order and democracy at a time when naval vessels were rife with cruelty and strict hierarchies. That taste of freedom and fair treatment was a huge selling point for the new recruit. Your first days on a pirate vessel were intense. It was a massive adjustment, especially if you came from a disciplined navy or merchant ship. Here's what you'd experience: orientation and buddy system. You'd be paired with or mentored by a senior crew member, someone who could show you the ship's layout, teach you the daily routines, and help you understand the unwritten rules of pirate's life. Ship duties. You'd be expected to pull your weight immediately, whether that meant scrubbing decks, repairing sails, manning the cannons, or handling the rigging. Pirates were surprisingly organized and efficient when it came to operating the ship. After all, their livelihoods, and lives, depended on speed, surprise, and skill in battle. Weapons and combat training. New recruits might not be expert swordsmen or sharpshooters. Experienced pirates often drilled them in pistol use, swordplay, and group tactics, often learned the hard way through real life skirmishes. Living conditions. Quarters were cramped and hot. You'd likely sleep in a hammock alongside your fellow pirates. Food rations could be meager or downright foul, salted meat, hardtack, and whatever else they could capture or steal. But the promise of rum, the spirit of camaraderie, and the thrill of chasing loot often made up for these discomforts. Becoming a pirate wasn't just about the physical demands, it was also about forging new bonds with your shipmates. Trust was everything at sea. Pirates ran a tight knit democracy where major decisions like choosing the next target or electing a new quartermaster were often made by voting. To an 18th century sailor used to tyranny on a naval ship, this sense of equality was eye opening. If you pulled your weight in battle and in chores, you could earn respect quickly, but if you were lazy or disobedient, your days might be numbered. Pirate crews thrived on storytelling and nicknames. New recruits were sometimes hazed with playful nicknames that would stick for life, unless they did something legendary to earn a fiercer moniker. Pirate vessels were surprisingly strict about maintaining order. Any threat to the crew's safety or unity was taken seriously. Common punishments included fines or reduced shares. For minor infractions like petty theft or breaking curfew, when in port, your share of the loot might be docked. Marooning. For serious offenses like mutiny, betrayal, or jeopardizing the crew's success, a pirate could be put ashore on a deserted island with limited supplies. This was a fate worse than a quick hanging to many. Flogging. Although pirates sought to avoid the brutality they faced under naval captains, flogging was sometimes used. Still, it was generally less severe than what you'd get under a navy's lash. For all its dangers, piracy had its perks. The sailors would get an equal share of profits, which was a far cry from the pittance many sailors earned on a merchant ship. They would also get freedom from oppressive commanders. Most pirate captains were elected. If the majority didn't like them, they could be replaced. They would also gain fraternity and camaraderie, a sense of belonging in a crew that looked out for one another. But the downsides were equally stark. They faced constant peril between navy patrols, the hangman's noose if captured, and the daily hazards of seafaring. They had to live their life on the run. Pirates had to avoid major ports, sneaking into pirate-friendly havens instead. And often they faced short careers. The average pirate career often ended within a couple of years, by death, capture, or a forced retirement if they somehow managed to stash away enough loot. Joining a pirate crew was like stepping onto a roller coaster that often ended in wealth or death. Those who signed the pirate articles entered a dangerous world governed by a surprising set of egalitarian principles. For a discontented sailor, it might have felt like freedom at sea, a chance for democratic decision making, and a share in the spoils. But it also meant being on the wrong side of the law, hunted by navies around the globe. So would you have taken the risk for a shot at pirate glory? Let me know in the comments if you think you'd have the guts to raise the black flag.